Welcome to One of Those, the show that explores the artist sneaker culture. I'm your host, Adam Butler, back with another episode. Thank you so kindly for being here. Big shout outs to everybody that's been supporting this show. I got a good one today, man. I'm going to jump right into it right after I say this because this is super important, man. I can't stress enough. We got dope stuff going on over at the Up On Game Network. A lot of new shows, man, and you need to go ahead and follow us and subscribe to us on the podcast platform. Go ahead to iHeart Radio or any podcasting platform, and also subscribe to our YouTube. A bunch of dope content, man. I don't just say that. I'm not just doing commercials. I'm just trying to let you know that the squad is deep and we're doing incredible things like we're doing on this show today, man. Today I have an extremely special guest, a brother I've known for years, man. We used to work over at Urban One together, man. Shouts out to Kathy Hughes and the whole squad over there. Used to work at Urban One. Both kind of started off together, really grinding. I watched this man grow into the position that he's in now, which is manager of storytelling over at Adidas. My man Farrell Martin is joining me on the show today, man. And listen, when it comes to storytelling, that's probably one of the most important things in sneaker culture right now, especially with the art side of it, right? When you start talking about why people covet these things, not just to have a comfortable sneaker, not just to be fresh, but what's behind it, right? So he's going to talk to us about so much, man. What's going on at Adidas basketball, what's happening with some of the athletes that they represent, and what's the future over at Adidas, man. A lot of inside scoop happening. Not going to waste any more time. Without further ado, my man Farrell Martin joins the show. Farrell, what's happening, brother?
What's going on, sir? I'm good. How you doing?
I am great, man. We were laughing off mic because we've known each other for years. We both worked at Urban One, Radio One, whatever you want to call it together. Look, we both came from the mud. Not that company was mud, but you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, grinding for real, man. How are you, brother?
I'm great, man. I'm blessed. Everything is good. Beautiful. I was just working my dream job and pulling out of a pandemic and recession and everything else that's going on with the world, and coming out on the other side pretty clean. So I'm blessed and thankful.
Beautiful, man. I see the Adidas back there, so we're going to talk about that dream job for a second. In fact, tell the people about. I talked about it in the intro, but just sort of tell people about your position and what you do over at Adidas.
Okay, so basically my title is a storytelling manager. What I do with Adidas was I work with Adidas basketball. So, we're working with all our athletes, all our, we have different shoes that's coming out. My job is really just tell stories. Like we're really trying to work with media, work with our social team, work with, I work with marketing and all of that. It's really trying to supplant what the story is behind our products.
Yeah.
We're really trying to get the stories out. So it could just be about the shoes. It could be about our athletes. It could be about what we're doing as a category. And what I mean by category is basketball. So we have different categories, that running and soccer. But specifically for basketball is really trying to manage the storytelling for that. A little bit of Adidas Originals, which incorporate some of our throwbacks and some of our classics and retros. So I touch a little bit of that as well, but my main focus is basketball.
So let's talk about your journey, man. You've always been one of the more creative people I've known. I always enjoyed working with you, talking to you about just like creativity and such. How did you get to this position, man? You say it's your dream job. How did you even land here?
It was just a combination of just work. You know what I mean? It was just being known for what I do. You know what I mean? People reached out to me. My journey, like it goes back to Howard University. Actually, even before that, I used to run a magazine. We started my own magazine back in the day. I was all into music. I was real big in the music space where I kind of met you. We was doing like some hip hop journalism, out in DC. We used to like hand out magazines in front of clubs and all that.
I remember.
And magazines was like a thing, you know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, the digital era came on and kind of, washed us away. But I ended up going back to Howard, finishing my degree in journalism. And from there, I was doing some reporting, working for the Black Press. From there, I think I went to Radio One at the time, working in DC where I met you, and I was overseeing, the websites, the digital strategy for our radio stations. I think we have 5 radio stations in that market. WKY is one among them.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was crazy because, I was just kind of, I was straight magazine, but then I started getting my chomp on as, getting my bit, chomping at the bit as far as digital with that role. That kind of grew, that grew in different capacities because I think I got recruited by Muriel Bowser's campaign team.
Mayor DC.
To do some creative work for them, or some digital work for them. So I was, doing some stuff with her campaign. She ended up getting elected and offered me a job to be communications manager or communications director for the DC office of entertainment, DC entertainment office. So basically they combined the DC cable with DC film office, and they made it one big office that oversaw like the entertainment aspects of DC. So I did that for about a year where I was working for the DC government. It was the government, It's dope role. I love what, I like what I did, gave me some visibility. Right. I ended up moving to LA and taking a job with Pluto TV. So if you ever, if you got some apps on Roku or whatever on you see Pluto TV, which allows you to stream, allows you to stream free content and all that. So I was programming content for a lot of their channels. I did that for about a year. Left there and I went back to Radio One to oversee video production in Atlanta. So all their radio stations, I was able to work a lot with a lot of great folks because you had nationally syndicated radio out there. You had like Ricky Smiley. You had what they called the morning culture. Yeah. They had at the time they had a bunch of folks, but we had a lot of guys.
Angie and them and a lot of the folks.
They did what they did. We had can't remember all the names, but we had a bunch. We had like a bunch of nationally televised shows. We had Dish Nation, which they found out there. Yeah. So it was a lot that I was doing. I had access to and just be able to touch a lot of just national stuff. But at the same time, I was working a lot with brands because me being a digital guy, me working with video, I had to work with a lot of our advertisers.
Right.
So with that, working with advertisers and creating digital brands, I was doing some consulting for brands and small businesses. I started doing more on digital marketing as opposed to just content. And from there, my name was just kind of waving through the industry or whatever. They reached out to me like, yo, what you think about this opportunity? I was like,
yeah.
And it happened to be Adidas, and they brought me on saying, we like the stuff you've been doing, telling stories. I've always been telling stories through different capacities, spanning film, TV, print, digital, what else? Radio. So, I've been running the gamut, just really trying to work with different people behind the scenes. Right. I've been in front of the scenes in some capacities, and just really trying to just oversee storytelling and manage that. You know what I'm saying? And I get to do it for a brand now. So I was doing it in some capacity when we were working with advertisers and when I did it as a consult. But now working for a global brand like this is we're one of the biggest brands in the world at
absolutely
this. Sportswear, accessories. I walk around everywhere and I see people wearing Adidas, wearing Adidas merch and all that, wearing their shoes, their stuff. You see it on TV. So I'm blessed. It's a great position to be able to just move culture and move the market and move the needle. We got competitors and we got spaces that we're trying to conquer, but we're, it's a great challenge, man. I love it.
Speaking of moving the culture, right? And I told you off mic that it's been a bit of a theme on my show, not on purpose either, just storytelling comes up so much because there's always this thing about sneakers where it's like hype beasts and hype and everything and the resale prices and all of that. But tucked in there somewhere is the story of the sneaker. Like the other brand has stories, Adidas has stories. Tell me about like your approach when it comes to, and you don't have to spill any beans. You don't have to tell me about any specific thing, but just your approach when it comes to storytelling. And then another part of the question for you is how important is that storytelling to a brand like Adidas and to Adidas basketball?
I mean, the storytelling is everything. Matter of fact, let me pull this up. Storytelling is everything, man. For brands in general, it's kind of like, it's like I could sell you this. Is my little Magic Johnson dog.
Word up, sell some magic.
But you wanting to buy it is what's the story? What does it represent? You know what I'm saying? So like us, we like to represent, we're the rebellious ones. We're the ones that's talking about culture. If you look, we're talking about, especially in the sneaker category, like culture is everything. It's kind of like, do we connect with the people? For you to want to, there's a big thing about brand loyalty. There's a big thing about, because the brand represents certain things, certain values, right? And like, we're the things that you wear on the outside. So part of like the reason why I'm wearing this hat right here, it represents California, right? And this colorway, these things, it represent me. Like if I wear my school on my shirt, or I don't know what I'm wearing, but if I wear my school on my shirt, it represents me in a certain, it's kind of like, if you get political, certain red hats, they represent that thing, a certain ideal. Yep. So that's the storytelling behind that, is just really to further that connection. Like we have these different types of connections, and whatever it is, it could be like, one big thing for us is women, you know what I'm saying? Like we got this big thing about, we have the biggest WNBA roster of any sportswear company. Yeah. So we're really trying to push women in basketball, like really trying to make it accessible for everybody. We got, we got the men's side, we got the youth side, we're talking about social justice, that's a big thing for us. You know what I mean? So these are things that we represent, the values that we represent as a company, that I represent personally. So I love that the company that I work for align with what I speak to. So we try to tell those stories, because there's a lot of individual stories. There's stories that go across sport, across different groups, that people can relate to. And so when you buy that piece of merchandise, that apparel or whatever, when you put it on, that represents you. Like if I was a cowboy and I get that Wrangler shirt, it represents me as a, you know what I'm saying? If I'm a skater and I got a certain brand, you go Supreme or something. Yeah. For a skater, that shoe that shoe or that board represents him. You know what I'm saying? Right. So story is that's all. It's really about pushing your brand forward. You know what I'm saying? How you do that.
Yeah. Excuse me. So when you think about basketball sneakers, and in the early 2010s, basketball sneakers were extremely popular, and they kind of crossed over into that streetwear. Not so much now, but it is starting to make a comeback with more retro stuff coming out, right? I think about Adidas, and I think about the Kobe line that they had on early on, and a lot of that's coming out, and things, you can name that ball player, right? How do you combine this is a great shoe for basketball, right? It's going to protect you. You're not going to break your ankle wearing the shoe. You're going to be faster. You're going to be, but also the aesthetic, and then the part that you deal with, which is, how do I make it so that it tells a story, so that it translates into casual wear and streetwear?
I mean, some of it just happens on its own, right? If you think about, the most famous example, my Adidas, right? Run DMC. The Shell Toes was a basketball shoe, right? Started out as a basketball shoe. Same thing with different shoes that's come out throughout history from other brands. Right now we're dealing with, there's a shoe called the Forum. Yeah. Top 10. Those are classic shoes that are, they got different remixes, different colorways, that started out as basketball shoes. And I think a lot of it is design is really about adoption. It's really about, like, right now there is a big push for performance. We're talking about ankle support, or how does it feel? Because if it's a basketball shoe, it has to be basketball first, right? We do have lifestyle shoes and lifestyle elements that go under our Adidas Original thing, or they may fall into Adidas Original. But sometimes it's just like, we have Trae Young, we have him, we have Donovan Mitchell, we have Damon, we have Dame Lillard. We have all these swaggy type athletes, Jalen Green coming on board, Anthony Edwards. So, but our signature guys, they're there designing the shoe that they can wear off court. You know what I'm saying? So it's always, it has to be performance first, because especially our signature shoes, you have a little more like design leeway for our non-signature shoes, because they're basketball shoes, but they're probably more of a design aesthetic. But when you're talking about the athlete's shoe itself, the signature shoes, their career is on the line. You can't have it like, I remember I was watching the And One documentary last night, and they had brought on, And One was this big old brand, you know what I'm saying, where they were trying to push their shoes and this, that, and the third. But 1 second. They finally put on a shoe on Steph Marbury. They bring him on as their lead endorser. My man, bro, he breaks it, or he injures his ankle in game with the shoes on.
Yep.
So performance has to come first, because these dudes, their careers riding on the security of the shoe that they play in. So, and we also want to be known for that, because you don't want to be like Zion Williamson, where your foot's going through the shoe. So
yeah.
So it's like we want to avoid those types of instances. So for us, it got to be performance first. The design has to support that, right? And so like Trae Young, as I was saying, he likes more of the more low cut shoe that he could wear off court. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at some of the designs, they kind of support what that particular athlete, what his style aesthetic is.
Yeah.
So and then people will adopt it. So we have a different line of signature or non-signature shoes that that convert very well to lifestyle.
Yeah. And the top 10 is funny you bring that up. I should have had that joint out. I love the top 10. I got a couple pairs of those sitting in the closet over there. And these are the type of like sleeper sneakers in Adidas catalog that people don't think about, but you see people wearing all the time. But when it comes to the newer athlete, and because the top 10 has its own story, and I imagine for you telling that story, I won't say it's easy, but it's less of a challenge than to tell a rookie story, right? Or someone that's less known. So do you think that a lot of that storytelling has to, come from moments they create on the court? Like, Trae Young may hit a game winner in this one, so you name it after that, or I ain't gonna give you no ideas, you know what I'm saying? But, stuff like that. Do you think that
can? It can. It just depends on the shoe, the person behind the shoe, the colorway, because we have the silhouette. It'd be like I was saying, Trae Young's story. He's the overlooked guy. He was the guy that everybody doubted. He's 6 foot, 165, soaking wet. He's not the big dude. He's the little dude who had to overcome a lot of odds coming from Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Coming from this, that, and the third, but now he's a beast. But he was the dude that all you lost, you traded him for Luka. He's coming in New York. Now he's a villain, but the story writes itself. So it's really about us recognizing what that story is. He's representing Atlanta. There's stories there, like the South. Like if you would have talked about, like for instance, if you want to parallel what Atlanta means to culture versus New York, Trae Young mirrors that, right?
Right.
New York was the dominant city in culture. They moved the culture. Atlanta came and supplanted that. They come up and destroyed that, right? The Hawks and Trae Young did the same thing. New York Knicks, they come in Madison Square Garden and they destroy that. So it's like there's a lot of parallels you can draw. There's a lot of stories that you can draw. It's just really like, okay, what's gonna work? Do we need to move culture? Do we need to move product? Do we need to supplant what's going on right now? Like sometimes it could be social issues. Sometimes we could talk about Title IX and women's basketball, or whatever. We could talk about a lot of different things. It's like, oh, do we want to create more accessibility to the sport? You know what I mean? So what's the story what story can we tell to create more accessibility for the sport? We'll do this thing, we'll do that thing.
Yeah. Two things before I let you go, man. One thing I really want to touch on, because I didn't know that about the WNBA roster that you guys had. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I often speak to women on this show. I love speaking to women about sneaker culture because I think they were ignored for a long part in sneaker culture. I think that a lot of women, a lot of brands are working with women to create sneakers to work with either, classic signature sneakers or create something new. And I think that's beautiful. What do you think needs to be done to really showcase, we know Trae Young, right? We know Donovan Mitchell, they've had these moments, but we know the WNBA could use a little bit more push. You know what I mean? We know that they talk about it all the time. Do you think Adidas could be part of that to make that push and really push the athletes that you all have on the roster already and use sneaker culture as sort of leverage to really get them to where frankly they think they deserve to be celebrity wise?
Definitely. I mean, if you think about just being the face of our company and a lot of our branding and advertising, we got Candace Parker. You know what I'm saying? We got Khalil Copper, who was part of the Chicago Sky. They won the WNBA championship last year. We're in the playoffs right now. So as WNBA gets more visibility, as we do more advertising, as we do a lot of front facing, we're going to always put our athletes, in the best positions that they can be. So, the WNBA is going to be pushing their athletes. We're going to be pushing the athletes. And then, of course, their own people is going to be pushing them, as they get more visibility, they start doing more promo and marketing and doing more interviews, and interest grows with the game. But we're definitely doing our part and putting our muscle behind our athletes and our girls. When I mean girls, I'm talking about, girls coming up and really trying to use them as examples so we can grow the game. Because, you can grow the game this way, we're growing the game this way as well. So, we just make sure that they're included in everything that we're doing. So
because there was a time there where, oddly enough, after Cheryl Swoops and some of the earlier, that first class of WNBA stars, signature shoes, you didn't even think about signature shoes when it came to WNBA. Shamika Hoskell and people like that in the 2000s, you didn't think, well, what does her shoe look like? Now that's starting to happen again. And again, I think it's also because a lot of women designers are entering the game and really focusing that, and brands are starting to say, not brands like the top two brands, but, like mom and pop sneaker shops, right? Resale shops, clothing lines are starting to say, this is for women and we're putting this out here for women. So it is interesting to me that there's not more push for, that we hadn't seen the Candace Parker signature sneaker, right? And that's a superstar. Candace Parker is a superstar, you know what I mean? And that should be a layup. And I'm sure you all will get the job done. But it's just really interesting to me that the WNBA, and signature sneakers didn't go together like NBA and signature sneakers would together.
I mean, like I said, Candace Parker does have her signature shoe that she just dropped. So, that's getting pushed. If you check her, you could check some of the commercials that we've been doing. She's definitely front and center. She is the face of our women's women's push. Beautiful. So, she's one of the greatest basketball players that ever touched the ball. You know what I mean? Top 25. I think she was just recognized as a top 25 NBA player of all time. So, she's definitely the face of what we're doing. And last year she went home to Chicago, won a championship. Chicago Sky just advanced right now, just recently to the next round. So we got the playoffs going on. So she's definitely been holding it down. And if you just Google what we've been doing, you can see a lot of the work we've been doing with Candace Parker and all and some of her peers that are also on our roster.
That's really dope, man. That's really dope. I'm really glad to hear that, man, for real. Last thing before I let you go, brother, just tell me about sneaker culture has changed even within the past 3 years. Really, we talked about the pandemic earlier and how during the pandemic there was just like this race to buy sneakers and the race to sell sneakers. Everybody got them stimulus checks and they were spending that bread, right? And so, but now we're kind of coming off of that. And another thing we've been talking about on this show over the past couple of weeks is how sneakers are more accessible right now, and that's actually a good thing, right? Not everything is like, oh my God, I got to spend millions of dollars from that's Adidas and Nike on the resale. And I'm not really asking you about resale so much, but I am asking you about where do you think sneaker culture is as a person who works in the industry now? Like, what are your thoughts on sneaker culture?
I mean, it's two things. Of course, you got the resellers and the hype beasts who like those limited colorways and those exclusive drops, and that's one market, right?
Yeah.
So you got to think about it in two markets. You got to think about the hype beast market, which is it's going to be like we got the Hardens or we got the Yeezys. Yeezys been real big. So if you got Yeezys or Ivy Park, or we got another collab with Gucci and all. So we have these we have these high-end collabs that are limited and drop that serve hype beasts and people that want to really get it. Then you have general market. If you look at the pricing of any of the athletes I named, they're 150 and less. We don't really have $200 sneakers. We don't really have a lot of luxury premium sneakers in that category, general interest. We want to keep it. We partnered with Foot Locker. to make sure that there's always sneakers available. They got the Confirmed app, which is really for the hype beast, but there's two different markets. So it's like, that's where sneaker culture is. It's like, you're gonna always, I ain't gonna say you always have, but right now you have the limited edition colorways and model
silhouettes.
Yeah. So you have the limited edition stuff that people love, the hype beast love. They'll pay premium $1 for it, they'll resell it, do whatever they're gonna do. Spam the app to try to get in front of the line and compete, with other people and outbid each other in the auction. And that's what they do. And there's a market for that. But then the general interest for people who just need shoes, we have that. We just want to make sure that it's available as long as the supply is there. Because, of course, like everybody else, there's going to be supply constraints because of, right, what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
But outside of that, if the sneakers are available and they can churn them enough, I think we'll do our drops and try to keep up with the demand. You know what I'm saying? But,
right.
I think for right now, the pricing, we're not, if you look at any of the pricing, it's not really, it's not real crazy. We don't have the $250 sneaker.
Yeah.
There is sneakers that cost a lot,
right,
but our particular signature athlete line is not it. So
yeah, and I think that's what's happening. I think the shift for all of the brands is that the hype is dwindling down just a smidge, not significantly, but enough. And people are starting to go, you know what? I don't have to always wear the hyped up thing. I can just go get what's good for me. Yeah. And that's why I'm excited about what you're doing over there with basketball, Adidas basketball, because there's an opportunity for people to see these dope, silhouettes and say, hey, if I can't get my hands on this hyped up thing, let me get that.
Yeah. I mean, part of it was like dictated by the market as well. Mm-hmm. It was like same thing what happened with cryptocurrency and all that, where when everybody was in it, all the prices got inflated. And specifically on the reseller side, it was the hype died down because it got oversaturated and people couldn't compete with all these outside forces and these these bots and cheaters and this, that, and a third. So companies were forced to say, okay, we got to address how to get the shoes to actual consumer as opposed to resellers and investors. And maybe hopefully that can help even out the market a little bit. There's still a lot of work to do. And, of course, I'm not on that side, so I can't really see what's being done. But I just as an observer, is just like, you see that there's apps being put out that, trying to create these systems to make it more fair for the consumer, as opposed to these folks who know how to jump the line, if you will, and hoard everything, which makes everything inflate. Because what they can do is, if you own the entire stock of like these, if you own the PlayStations, right, PS5s, I got all the PS5s, I can sell it to you for $800, $1,000, because if I was Sony, I'm like, I want to sell it for $500. Me as a reseller, I hoard all the PS5s. I'm selling it out to the market now. The cost of it is up significantly, even though they still, all they got was they 500. The resellers are getting that extra 300, 500, whatever the markup is, and they're controlling the supply. They hoard everything. So, where Sony, what they have to do is like, okay, we got to figure out some system that keeps it fair for the regular consumer, so they can get our product without these folks hoarding everything. You know what I'm saying? So I think what you're seeing now is just the market's kind of just evening itself out. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
Don't want to pay all this money for these shoes. Like, I can go get some Yeezys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeezys available. Like, but if there wasn't that much available, I'm gonna go ahead and jack the price up. You know
pretty much, man. Well, you're working on the most important side again, brother. I'm proud of you, man. Congratulations, man. This is really, really dope. I will be calling on you again, man. So be ready, man. Because
anytime, bro. Anytime, I'm here, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Big shouts out to Pharaoh, man. Listen, like I said before, storytelling is super important, and it's just really exciting to see what's going on in some of these big brands. It's really cool to kind of peek behind the curtain, and see what's going on with the people that cook up and make all the ingredients in this thing we call sneaker culture, man. The business side is really interesting, especially nowadays where some of the hype is starting to cool down and people are just getting back to just actually buying sneakers. I think basketball sneakers are going to make somewhat of a comeback, man, at both Nike and Adidas So it's really cool to see what's going on the storytelling side. All right. Follow that man. He's doing a lot of big things, man. Shouts out to Pharaoh. Shouts out to you again for tuning into the show. Remember, subscribe to the podcast and follow the team, the Up On Game Network, the @Up On Game Network. Shows come out every single day. Big time shows too. So support the team and also support the squad, the On My Feet Network. I got tongue twisted a little bit. My bad, man. Sorry. I'm human. Anyway, follow me at @MSR_Adam, @MSR_Adam, and follow me on TikTok at The Butler Did It Podcast, where the conversation continues. Remember to mind your mental health. Always do that. Mind your mental health, ladies and gentlemen. Mind your physical health. Super important. And don't forget, and always continue to be great. I'm up out of here. Peace.